I'm feeling extra controversial for this Christmas season. First off, welcome to Bluestuff. That means 12 days of Christmas, where starting today, I will be releasing a video for every day until Christmas, which is, stay with me here, 12 whole videos. I did this last year to some mild success, but that was when I was only at like 100 subs, so this year is going to be better for sure. So before I begin, just wanted to let you know how this is going to work. So relax, grab a beer, unless you're underage, and enjoy the show. Now, where was I? Oh yeah, what's on the agenda for today's Christmas special? Oh no! Persona 5 sucked? But it didn't. At least, I don't think it did. Do I really have to do this? I mean, this is asking to be assassinated. God damn it. I will admit that Persona 5 does have its issues, and I'm going to do what I've been doing for years now and explain that shit. There are three major things wrong with Persona 5 in my opinion. The story and its lack of creative direction with its villain plot, the difficulty, and the fact that you can fuck your teacher. That's literally why we shouldn't be oh shit. The actual third reason why this game sucks is the Royal extension, which I will go into more detail later when we get there. Here's a disclaimer for you, this video is mainly satire, so don't take my opinions too seriously. Actually, quick point, I see everybody using 2 with only 1 O instead of the proper 2 with 2 O's. So quit being a bunch of moronic illiterates and use the proper form for fuck's sake. Anyway, I'd also like to point out that this video is not rated for kids because I'm, as the ladies call it, a bit of an asshole. With that out of the way, let's begin with the following. Persona 5 fucking sucked.
Why would you know where you're going?
I don't know what I'm doing!
You're going round in circles!
Ah! Shit!
Oh shit. Here we go again.
Persona 5's story is about as generic as it gets, and if you don't believe me, let's take a look at it. The story is about a bunch of rascal teenagers trying to find out the main villain of a bunch of incidents, and it turns out the main villain happens to be a multi-million-dollar Dr. Evil Heisenberg-looking chump. And then, in classic Persona fashion, they kill God in the end. I get that Persona tends to follow a rule of thumb when it comes to its main plots, but Jesus, you could add a little variety every now and again and differentiate yourself from the typical murder mystery. Persona 4 did an alright job with this. The main villain behind the whole murder bonanza was Adachi, who is an entire video's worth of societal issues. Shido, on the other hand, was as generic as it got. He's a corrupt politician looking to seek an important political office and has his goonies, i.e., his son, take out other opponents or loose ends, and it's up to the leader of the Misfits to stop him, who also has previous experience with him. Shit, this might as well be Stalin's rise to power in the Soviet Union. The story of Persona 5 at its core is pretty generic, especially the villain spot. Don't get me wrong, Persona 3's plot was about the world ending because of some big bad thing called death. Actually, it was called Nyx. It was called Nyx Avatar. What the fuck? By the way, anyone who genuinely believes that Persona got boring because you keep killing God, but then says Nyx Avatar was a good final boss, you can go fuck yourself. Persona 5's story isn't bad, it's just generic, which sucks because the characters were actually pretty good, and I would argue unique compared to other Persona characters over the decades. Persona, as a franchise, has always been more mainstream, and by association, easier than its parent franchise, Shin Megami Tensei. But I would argue that Persona 3 and 4 had challenging moments, especially with Golden being ported to PC, where mods have been created like the Nightmare mod, which is the new hardest difficulty. I can't stop finding death in my fucking game. I'm not even joking, I played it for Thankmas, I opened a fucking chest and I knew death was gonna come out of 5 of those motherfuckers came out of the chest. It was like a fucking clown car. Persona 5, on the other hand, is probably the easiest Persona game to date. Actually, I lied. Persona 5 Royal is the easiest Persona game to date. P5R Royal, god damn it, I did it again. Persona 5 Royal added a difficulty mode to the original game called Merciless, and I don't know if this is the new hard mode or the new easy mode. I'm not kidding, Merciless is the easiest mode to play Persona 5 on. The damage output is extremely high on both the user and the enemy, so as long as you you know the enemy's weaknesses or have pretty good physical attacks, specifically the ones that add damage after a baton pass, you'll sweep the floor with these motherfuckers. In Okumura's updated boss battle, the only fucking way to beat him is to play it in Merciless. I'm not joking, unless you're severely over-leveled, you have to put the game in Merciless in order to kick his wonky astronaut-looking ass. All this to say that Persona 5 is an easy game to play, which kind of sucks. I've always been a proponent of having games get rid of difficulties and instead letting the devs choose how they want others to play the game, and Persona 5, along with its attempt of a golden rework, Royal, is a perfect example of why this is a good idea. Throughout the entire video, I've talked a lot about Persona 5's critically acclaimed rework, Persona 5 Royal, and this was on purpose. Royal was a good extension overall, but it had issues that were weird, odd, and sometimes plain bad. Sumire, for example, had a shitty character arc. Her entire shtick was getting out of her sister's shadow because she was literally pretending to be her sister. And the arc doesn't really end, at least not in-game. It ends with Sumire still trying to find herself and in turn get out of a shadow that she's already been behind. Why was this bad? Because everybody else got out of their PCP-filled wet dream, so why didn't she? Sumire's arc was underwhelming. Actually, Sumire as a character was underwhelming. Maruki, on the other hand, carried the fucking game to success. Then there was the difficulty, which we just discussed. There were updates to some of the palaces, which was also a benefit, especially in the less interesting places like Okumura's space station and also less difficult places like Shido's cruise ship. But the story of Royal's extension is something that I felt could have and should have been connected to Persona 4, since the entire premise was that Maruki was making everyone else see what they wanted to see, which was kind of how Persona 4's Midnight Channel worked. And of course, Akechi is in Persona 5 Royal limbo, since Royal technically isn't confirmed canon yet, so I don't really know what the fuck to even say about that. But back to Persona 4, I mean hell, you could have given him a small reference and I wouldn't have complained. The cards were all there, but Atlus didn't do it. When I first started this trilogy of videos, I had genuine complaints of Persona 3 that were also complaints of everybody else in the community. And it shows, considering how many people commented about it and or liked the video in agreement with me. Persona 4 also had plenty of issues, but those had more to do with the story and characters than they did with the fundamentals of the game. Persona 5 had issues that really could be boiled down to opinionated statements based on individual experiences. You can tell that I tried to make the issues as broad as possible with umbrella terms, but again, this is just my opinion and comedic perspective, which should only be taken seriously if they make sense. I've played this game for years, ever since it came out back in 2017, so there's no doubt in my mind that I've played this game too many times to not make a video about it, but to say that it sucked is a little bit of an overstatement. This was more just a fun little thing for me to do. Does Persona 5 really suck? No, and neither do Persona 3 and 4. But did all three games have their problems? Absolutely. And instead of just listening to this video and trying to come up with your own opinion based on what I think or say, how about you go out and make your own opinion about these games? They're all incredibly great games to play, and I recommend playing them all in order so that you don't get disappointed when you play Persona 5 and then go to Persona 4 or 3 and fucking hate yourself. Thanks for tuning in to day 1 of Bluestuff's 12 Days of Christmas. Tomorrow's video will be a straight beatdown of a company that probably nobody loves. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, comment your credit card number and security code on the back, subscribe, and click the bell to get notified when I drop day 2 of the 12 Days of Christmas. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.